This power-sucking parasite is Superman's most unique villain. Superman is one of the most iconic superheroes to ever grace the pages of comic books and the big screens, and with a superhero as well known and powerful as Superman, you best believe there are many evil villains lined up to take a shot at destroying this Caped Crusader. We already know that DC does not fall short when it comes to complex and terrifying villains, and today, we bring to you one of Superman's most obscure yet formidable villains, Parasite. Local villains who aren't necessarily at the top of Superman's rogues gallery have always featured in Superman's vast lineup of villains over the years, making for a varied set of antagonists. Despite the fact that enemies like Parasite aren't always the most recognizable, the characters can be incredibly harmful depending on the situation, making him one of Superman's most hazardous villains. And now, without further ado, let us take a look at Parasite. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. First comic book appearance explored, Origins of Parasite. Parasite first appears in issue number 340 of Action Comics, published in the year 1966, and is featured on the cover itself in his full purple glory with the text proclaiming that the Parasite is the most dangerous villain Superman has ever faced. In the first few pages, we find the Man of Steel working in a laboratory where he finishes an atomic project at a government lab and heads out to his day job as a journalist. However, right before leaving, he mentions that the radioactive elements that he had been working with had to be securely disposed of so that humans do not come in direct contact with them. These radioactive elements were found by Superman in a different galaxy during one of his adventures, and he brought them back for research and experimentation. It is safe to say that while Superman can touch it and be near it without wearing a hazmat suit, regular humans would have unfathomable reactions to these toxins. Remember the stories of the three-eyed fish coming from Japan? After he leaves, other researchers in the lab order a janitor who works in the facility, Raymond Maxwell Jensen, to dispose of the atomic waste. For a little background on Jensen, he was a loner, not well liked by the people he worked with, and he was generally a lowlife. He couldn't hold down jobs and had been fired 3 times in the previous year. However, he was clearly not looking to better himself and also hated all the people that he worked with. He constantly looked for an easy way out. The moment he spotted the large container of atomic waste that he had been tasked with to dispose of, he immediately thought that instead of atomic waste, the container contained payrolls that were to be shipped. Out of greed, he opened the container and was inundated with the energies coming from the toxic atomic waste. He manages to close the container, but by then, the deed had been done. He had transformed into a purple alien entity. Then, as the scientists rushed to help him, it absorbed his life energy and gained not only the scientist's strength, but also gained his intelligence. This is when he realized the extent of his newfound powers as an atomic furnace. The first thing he does is that he goes and drains the energy of all the scientists in the lab, fulfilling his vendetta and exacting his revenge against all those who have dared order him around at work. Then he goes back home where he has the realization that he can become the greatest criminal alive as long as he keeps siphoning energy from people. In the meanwhile, Superman goes out on a mission to build a hospital at a construction site, shortly after the incident takes place at the government lab. As he flies past Parasite's window, Parasite realizes that Superman has immense energy which will keep him satisfied for a long time, and thus decides to target Superman. He shows up at the construction site and can feel Superman's energy and quickly figures out that Clark Kent was Superman's real identity since only he was being affected by the energy siphoning. He then decides that he would lure Superman in and would easily defeat him since he would have the upper hand in the fight, having figured out Superman's real identity. Superman then encounters him while answering an APB in the heart of the city. The fight is terrible to watch as a Superman fan, as he is drained of all his power and energy while the Parasite tosses him around and left as if the Man of Steel was made out of cotton. Superman manages to land a couple of punches, but things do go downhill once again as Parasite shows that not only had he drained Superman's energy, but he had also acquired all of Superman's abilities. He punches Superman into submission and it looks terrible for the superhero as he is unable to get up and fight back anymore. It is only a few times that we have seen Superman look this helpless and defeated. Parasite keeps draining more and more of Superman's powers as he proclaims his intentions of robbing all the biggest banks in America and taking down all those that have ever ordered him around. But then all of a sudden, he explodes and disintegrates into dust and smoke. This is because he still had a mortal body, mutated or not. Thus, it was not capable of handling the insane amounts of energy that he had absorbed from Superman. His greed led to his demise. We can safely conclude from this issue that the Parasite is more than a match for Superman and quite probably almost all the heroes in this universe, making him a foe they absolutely would not want to cross. Technically, Superman did not even defeat Parasite, his own greed for more energy did, which says a lot about the villain. There are actually multiple Parasites. Quite simply put, there have been several characters who have played the role of Parasite, just as there have been multiple people who have played the role of other villains throughout DC Comics history, as the mantle of said villain is passed from one individual to another. Rudy Jones was the most popular take on this villainous character. Rudolph Rudy Jones was changed into the Parasite while he was working as a janitor at a Pittsburgh Star Labs facility during the post-crisis. Darkseid, the tyrannical lord of Apocalypse who wants to enslave all in the multiverse, recalled the existence of the pre-crisis Parasite and lured Jones into becoming the present version. His true intentions unbeknownst to anybody on the scene. He persuaded Rudy to search a trash can that might have contained something important or valuable. When Rudy had the misfortune of opening it, unusual radiations entered his body, transforming him into the hairless, green-skinned devil. He isn't, however, the original Parasite. As has been explored, the first Parasite was a factory worker at a research center named Raymond Maxwell Jensen during the pre-crisis era. Raymond Maxwell Jensen was a lowlife who secured a position as a plant worker for a research center. Jensen, mistakenly believing that the corporation payrolls were concealed in storage containers, managed to open one and was inundated with energy sources from biohazard substances, transforming him into a purple-skinned parasitic being and thus making him the first ever Parasite. Characters like Alex and Alexandra Alston, as well as Joshua Michael Allen, followed Rudy Jones in taking up the title and the mantle of the villain Parasite. Parasite has also featured in a variety of genres and mediums, including video games, television shows, and movies, just like other weird characters that stand out in media and thus can be transformed into various interesting versions. The Raymond Jensen rendition, for example, appears in the events of Supergirl. Furthermore, whole new variants of the Parasite began to develop and did not appear in the comics at all. Such was the case of I.C. Harris, a thief of chemicals who, unlike the other Parasites, had a perfectly normal appearance with a bald head. There was no iconic purple skin that the Parasite is famous for. Thus, clearly this character is versatile enough for it to be picked up and not only recreated multiple times by DC Comics, but also taken and refashioned into new and interesting versions of the original to appear across various media, making it an integral villain in Superman lore.
Fort 2, please respond. Where'd you go? Gina, you okay?
Parasite in DC Animated Universe. In the DC Animated Universe itself, Parasite appears in two different incarnations, showing the versatility of this character. This is due to the fact that practically anyone could be written into being the Parasite due to the nature of its origin. All one had to do was get exposed to a certain kind of radioactive material, and that was that. In Superman the Animated Series, the Rudy Jones version of Parasite is voiced by Brian James. This incarnation is a janitor at Star Labs who helps Martin LeBeau smuggle barrels of purple chemicals from the laboratory secretly. What goes around comes around, and Jones is smeared in these very chemicals and changes into Parasite during one of their heists. After coming to terms with his new body and powers, Jones goes on to face Superman twice and temporarily joins forces with Livewire before succumbing to his newly acquired energy-draining powers and being remanded to Stryker's Island. Jones is later voiced by Brian George in the Justice League two-part episode, Secret Society. In this episode, he is enlisted into Gorilla Grodd's secret society after waking up from his coma and battles the Justice League, only to be beaten by Wonder Woman. Jones further appears in Justice League Unlimited as a member of Grodd's expanded secret society in a minor, non-speaking role. In the episode, Lex Luthor takes possession of the society before and during the events of the episode Alive, and Grodd mounts a revolt to reclaim power. Jones supports the latter in this power tussle but is rendered immobile by Killer Frost. Lastly, in the episode Epilogue, Mark Warden voices a monstrous future iteration of Parasite. This iteration is a member of the Iniquity Collective, a future version of the society, and alludes to the evolution that Parasite might undergo to make him an even tougher villain to beat. Parasite and Supergirl in Smallville. Parasite has appeared in famous DC TV shows Smallville and Supergirl, and these renditions, while slightly different from the comics, have been equally as powerful and terrifying. Supergirl is a television series that focuses on Superman's cousin, Kara Danvers, who starts showing signs of superpowers herself and how she uses them to fight crime. Parasite appears twice in this series in two different variations of the character. Anthony Konechny portrays Raymond Jensen in the 4th season of Supergirl. This version is a DEO agent that loathes aliens for creating devastation in National City, as seen in the episode American Alien. He joins anti-alien activists Otis and Mercy Graves after quitting the DEO, and they introduce him to their sponsor, Agent Liberty. Jensen offers to be exposed to an angon received from the DEO after the Graves appear to have died. He then becomes the new Parasite in the episode Parasite Lost and utilizes his new energy-absorbing skills to murder aliens. Jensen then becomes comatose and is brought into DEO custody while he was attempting to locate an alien medallion in order to keep his angon alive and retain his newly acquired powers. Rudy Jones is played by William Mapother in the Supergirl episode Changing. This version is about an environmental scientist who becomes infected with an angon and was dormant in the body of an Arctic wolf and develops the power to drain the life from his targets through physical contact. Jones absorbs Supergirl's and the Martian Manhunter's powers and changes into a beast after being faced by Supergirl, Alex Danvers, and the Martian Manhunter. He renames himself Parasite and proceeds into a frenzy before Supergirl kills him by overloading him with plutonium from a nuclear power station. Lex Luthor later uses the All-Stone totems to build a replica of Parasite to aid him in fighting the Super Friends before it blows up while fighting Danvers in the episode Kara. Smallville is an American superhero action TV series that focuses on a young Clark Kent and how he turns into a hero while trying to keep it all a secret. Brendan Fletcher portrays the Rudy Jones form of Parasite in the Smallville episode Injustice. Tess Mercer hires him, Livewire, Neutron, and Plastique to find Davis Bloom. Following the deaths of Neutron and Livewire, Plastique and Jones go rogue and steal Clark Kent's superpowers in an effort to assassinate Mercer until the Green Arrow uses kryptonite to cripple Jones. Before he and Plastique are brought to Belle Reve, Jones is obliged to restore Kent's powers. What makes him so powerful? Parasite has a unique physiology because in all of its various different renditions, the transformation from human into the parasite has entailed bodily changes. This new physiology grants him the powers of enhanced strength, agility, and stamina. However, there is one unique ability possessed by him, which is why he is named Parasite. The character's capacity to absorb energy is one of the most important abilities he possesses in comparison to other opponents. It doesn't matter what shape the energy takes. As long as it can be eaten, Parasite will happily devour it all, like a cookie monster but for energy. Parasite has the ability to take the life energy of other beings, leaving them shriveled. He can also absorb and utilize nearly any other sort of energy. Parasite's powers evolved once he made contact with the strange visitor, allowing him to hold the energy he absorbed for longer. Jones and his scientist counterpart developed new abilities after absorbing a shapeshifter. This is why he's such a fascinating foe for Superman to take on. As Superman continually receives the sun's radiation, Parasite sees him as a feast of unrestricted power. The fact that the more energy he consumes, the more formidable he becomes also helps when he is battling charged up heroes. He can not only drain the life energy from his victims, but he can also become them, down to their DNA. This means it can imitate the superhuman abilities possessed by various heroes in the DC universe. This makes fighting Parasite exceedingly perilous, especially when he is facing numerous superheroes at the same time, because he can keep absorbing energy and consequentially gaining their varied abilities. Rudy Jones, however, can only hold their skills for a certain length of time until they run out of juice as a form of balance. Parasite's ability to adapt throughout the post-crisis age of comic books is one of the scariest aspects of the story. Rudy Jones's attempt to rid himself of his abilities merely strengthened them, enabling him to consume even more types of energies. Jones would go on to evolve 4 more times, the most recent of which granted him everlasting flight and heat vision. This created a monster that was an even more lethal menace to other heroes. This is true even in DC Rebirth, where he is his strongest. He is not without his own weaknesses, however. Although he has the ability to entirely absorb the skills of our favorite superheroes, these privileges can only provide him with so much. He not only has a finite time restriction on how long he can use these abilities, but also while he can acquire their abilities, he also inherits their flaws. If Superman's energy is consumed by him, for example, Parasite will no longer be immune to kryptonite. This is an acceptable weakness to have, to be honest, because without it the character would become practically unbeatable. This purple-skinned, bald-headed abomination has often been portrayed to be more than a match for all our beloved heroes, thus one has to stop and think, is the Parasite simply too powerful? Or can his weaknesses be enough for him to be decisively defeated in battle? He might not be as well known as Darkseid or Lex Luthor, but is definitely quite a handful for the Man of Steel and other DC heroes like Wonder Woman that have had the misfortune of going up against him. Do you think Parasite is the toughest villain that Superman has ever encountered? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.